Today's lesson is section 6.3A and B. We'll be talking about trigonometric functions of angles. So here, first example, I want to be able to find the following: cosine of 150 degrees and tangent of 420 degrees. So the last section, you were given a unit circle. So here we're going to actually apply our unit circle and find those. Now, one thing you need to remember is that when we're looking for stuff, remember sine of any angle from the unit circle, because your unit circle is radius of 1, is just going to be y. Cosine of your angle is just going to be x, because your radius is 1. Okay? So keeping that in mind, if I look for cosine of 150, I want to go to that angle measurement of 150 on the unit circle, and I want to look at the x value of my ordered pair, which actually gives me the cosine of 150. So here, cosine of 150 would be negative square root of 3 over 2. If you're not looking at the unit circle, take a moment, find your unit circle, and locate that angle and look at the x value. You'll agree that it's negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay. Now with tangent, or like any other trig functions, we have to use our y and x values to manipulate them to get what we want. So tangent, remember, is sine over cosine. So here it'd be like looking for the sine of 420 over the cosine of 420. So I need to find where 420 is. Okay, so if you need to, you can take 420 and subtract 360 to get it in between 0 and 360. So that would give me 60 degrees. Okay, so it would be saying the sine of 60 degrees over the cosine of 60 degrees. So then now, sine of 60, that's the y value, so you get square root of 3 over 2, and then over cosine of 60, which is 1/2. Now, since this is a complex fraction, you need to keep the numerator the same and change it to multiplication instead of division, and then flip or find the reciprocal of the denominator. So now I'm going to multiply square root of 3 over 2 by 2 over 1. The 2's cross cancel, so I'm left with the square root of 3 for that value. Okay. Now, one other thing that we need to take notice of. Oh, never mind. Okay, so, and make sure you take notice of where your angles are, or sorry, your x and y values are negative, so that you get the correct ratio. But in tangent of 420, since it was in the first quadrant, we didn't have to worry about that. Okay, so next example. Now here they give you tangent of some angle is 3/4. Now 3/4 is not a ratio that's on the unit circle, so don't worry about trying to figure out what theta is. They tell you that theta is in the third quadrant. Okay, so if you think about that, third quadrant's right here. Okay, and they want you to find all the other trig ratios. So then, remember that in the third quadrant, your x values are negative and your y values are negative. But remember, tangent and cotangent are positive in that quadrant, so that's why 3/4 is positive. So then now, if I want to find sine or cosine, making a triangle that kind of represents that. So if I look at the third quadrant, I go out 4, and I go down 3. You want to be able to find your hypotenuse. Now, because you're going to the left from the origin, your x is negative, and since you're going down from the origin, your y is negative. So remember, double negatives make a positive. So then I want to square those using my Pythagorean theorem. Doesn't matter what you use. You could say r squared as well. So then negative 3 squared is 9, plus negative 4 squared is 16, gives me 25. Square root, it gives me 5. Okay, so this value, my hypotenuse, is 5. Now that one's always positive, so you don't have to worry about changing it. Okay, so now you can find all the other ratios. So sine of theta, remember, is opposite over adjacent, or your y over your x, so, or sorry, y over your r, so -3 would be over 5. Cosine of theta is going to be your x over your r, so we have -4 over 5. Cosecant of theta is the reciprocal of sine theta, so that gives me 5 over -3. Secant theta is the reciprocal of cosine, so I get 5 over -4. And cotangent theta is the reciprocal of tangent, and since tangent was 3/4, you get 4/3. Okay, so then that would be your answer. You don't need to restate what tangent is. If you want to, you can, but it's not necessary to restate it. Now here are some trig identities that you would like to know. Okay, we already kind of talked about tangent of theta, that it's sine theta over cosine theta, and cotangent is the reciprocal of that, so cosine theta over sine theta. Now, one identity that we just kind of used was the Pythagorean identity. We used this one because if you think about unit circle, you have the y squared for sine, and you have the cosine squared for x, and that equals your r squared. Okay. Now, because your unit circle has a unit measurement or radius of 1, that's where they get the 1 from for r squared. So this kind of is what we kind of use, but because that ratio wasn't on the unit circle, we had to find our own r. So we used a piece of it. But sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. Also, you have tangent squared of theta plus 1 equals secant squared theta, and 1 plus cotangent squared theta equals cosecant squared theta. Okay, so just make sure you have those in your notes, write them down. Okay. Now, next thing, we'll find the area of a triangle. So, the area of a triangle with sides of lengths A and B, and with included angle theta is 1/2 AB sine of theta. So here, instead of doing like 1/2 the base times the height, here and this is for when you don't have a triangle that's a right triangle. So you can use an angle from your triangle and the sides that make that angle to help you figure out the area. So here I have a triangle where I have a side of 12 centimeters and a side of 6 centimeters, and the angle that makes up those two sides is 150 degrees. So if I use my formula here, my A, and it doesn't matter which one's A and which one's B, so I could plug in 12 here, and then plug in 6 for B, and then sine of 150. Okay, so then now I can reduce, so 1/2 of 12 is 6, so 6 times 6 gives me 36, and then sine of 150, let's go back to our unit circle, so 150 for our sine, remember that's our y value, so the y value for 150 is 1/2, so then now 36 times 1/2 gives me 18, and so since I had a unit of measurement of 7 centimeters, it would be 18 centimeters squared. Okay. Have fun.